Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel for my review of the second half of Dragons Rising Season 3. Part 2 officially released earlier this month, although, as often happens, this season has been out through leaked episodes for months. But I was able to watch the episodes, and I thought overall Part 2 was pretty good. Season 3 of Dragons Rising was solid as well, and I'm excited to review it today. The overall atmosphere of this season, or at least Part 2, is based on the Spectral Lands. Thunderfang and the Forbidden Five are now in what remains of the Departed Realm, and in this season, they're collecting souls in order for Thunderfang to become one of the Source Dragons. I thought this was a pretty cool theme for Part 2. It was nice to see the Spectral Lands really focus on it in Season 3, and they even update the intro as well to reflect this. So yeah, in this first episode, again, I really like how the atmosphere is somewhat creepy, somewhat unsettling, especially with the Forbidden Five and their hordes. One big issue in this first episode, and I guess a huge issue this entire season, is Zane and Pixel are immediately written out for the rest of the season. And to be fair, Zane did have a substantial role in Part 1, and he wasn't that good anyways. Now in Part 2, he's just completely gone, and it's like the show has zero interest whatsoever in fixing his character. Given that he was around in Part 1, this was probably the season where Zane's character should have been focused on more, and so I'm not really hopeful about that moving forward. But on a more positive note, the way Egalt's character and his conclusion is handled is something I really respect. From his introduction in the previous season, it was revealed that Egalt is this old dragon who's just slowly wasting away, and so there was the speculation maybe he battles Thunderfang and goes down in a blaze of glory. But what ends up happening is Egalt just kind of dies from old age in this first episode of Part 2. This was absolutely the right way to end off his character. It was a mature and just very real feeling story about old age or terminal illness. So yeah, overall very strong stuff. After this, the season kind of splits off into its main stories, one of which is that Jay, Nia, Wildfire, and Lloyd go to search for Aaron's parents. And so they go through the administration and eventually arrive at the Land of Lee, which is a new realm where it's revealed Aaron's parents, as well as many others, have been, I guess, kind of captured. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's the best idea ever for a new realm, but I think it works well enough. The overall concept is that it was this bleak, barren realm where there was only one guy named Lee who could make copies of himself, and after the merge, he started to capture people and build this underground city so that he could never be alone again. Except he doesn't really capture them by brute force. He mainly just lies to these people and manipulates them into thinking the rest of the world was destroyed. Again, I think this is a pretty cool idea. I don't know if I love the idea of an entire realm just basically being a wasteland. I think maybe this might have worked better as part of a realm, but I think Lee is an interesting antagonist. He's very weird for sure, but honestly, I think that makes him stand out more in comparison to the more generic evils of this season, which honestly were not as good, but we'll get to that later. I thought overall this was an interesting set of episodes. It was fun to see the ninja just kind of figure out what was wrong with the Land of Lee and get closer to Aaron's parents. Jay and Nia also have a lot of interactions throughout these episodes, which were nice to see. And Lee also has this redemption kind of towards the end, where Sora tells him that what he's doing isn't right, and so he decides to fix his mistakes. Yeah, overall, I think this was a pretty satisfying answer to that big question of where Aaron's parents were. Meanwhile, we're also seeing a story with Ross, Sora, and Aaron. Really, anything with Lord Ross in this entire show has been nothing short of fantastic, and that's certainly the case here too. I really like Sora being part of the story because you could see Aaron kind of being pulled in both directions. There's a lot of funny interactions between Sora and Ross as well, but really this whole story comes to a climax at the Underworld, where they arrive at this Dragon Icon Forge, where it's revealed that Ross has only kept Sora to use as a sacrifice to forge a Dragon Icon. And this works so well as a turning point for Aaron, because he realizes the destructive stuff he's been doing to bring back his old family is eventually going to come into conflict with his new family. And so this is where Aaron finally decides to ditch Ross for good. There's a really good fight scene here between Sora, Aaron, and Ross where they manage to escape him, and seeing Aaron accept that his parents are gone for good is very emotional, although obviously this kind of falls apart in an episode because his parents are not in fact dead. Aaron does reunite with his parents in this season, and overall, it's very emotional. It feels very fulfilling because it's something he's been working towards this entire show, and he's gone through a lot of challenges to get to this point. So it feels like a moment of deserved success for him. It's great to see. The other ninja team during these earlier episodes is Kai, Cole, and Frack, and this is where the show finally tells us what Cole's quest with Master Wu from Season 1 was all about. Wu had been trying to get Cole to unearth the dead body of the Source Dragon of Balance, and the ninja are able to do just that in this season. It's a very grand moment where we see essentially the body of a dead god, and after that the Source Dragon's body disappears, and Wu shows up and drops a cryptic message. In the overall season, it does feel a bit random, because it doesn't actually matter too much for the season itself, but personally, I don't really care. This was a plot point from 2 years ago that it was really time to resolve, and it seems like they had the time to focus on it here, and I'm just glad that they did. Anyways, the final few episodes kind of transitioned to the ninja releasing the Arc Dragon of Focus in order to combat Thunderfang. I thought the lore behind all this was pretty interesting, and seeing the ninja awaken the two halves separately and all of that, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I do feel like sometimes it's very hard to keep track of which characters are in which realms. This has definitely been an issue for most of the show, and this season is no exception either. I also think Sorceress Gandalaria is a pretty annoying character, and I would have been fine with seeing less of her. I also want to talk about Jay now. He was a huge part of Season 3, and I'm glad the show finally decided to carry out a story. Overall, I thought Jay was better in Part 2 compared to Part 1. A big focus of the story is just seeing him become a better person, and get used to the team again. It's especially his interactions with Nia that prompt him to be less heartless, and so that was very well done. I really like that his memories don't return, so by the end of the season, Jay's definitely on his way to being back, but he's not fully there yet. That was definitely the right call. So I'm excited to see him gradually transition to being a member of the team, instead of just getting all of his memories back just like that, which honestly is something the old show definitely would have done. I want to discuss the finale now. I thought seeing the ninja, seeing Eren and Lloyd control the Focus Dragon was a pretty cool idea. The battle itself was just alright. It ended very, very abruptly in my opinion. Thunderfang is always losing in this season. He gets defeated in the backstory, halfway through the season, and of course here as well. And that brings me to what seems like a pretty consensus opinion, is that Thunderfang and the villains for the season were a massive letdown. Since Part 1, we had known the Forbidden Five were underwhelming. They come back in Part 2 as ghosts, and they're cool, I guess, but they also don't have a single line of dialogue, which I think was a big mistake. So yeah, this part doesn't really improve them. Thunderfang being a letdown was more of a surprise. He had a lot of potential, a great backstory. He has a pitifully low amount of screen time this season, and when we do see him, he just kind of recycles the same lines of dialogue over and over again. It's all very disappointing because this character had a lot of potential, but it speaks to a greater issue that Dragons Rising has had. The seasonal villains are just not very good. And this was the case in Season 2 with the tournament villains. This is the case here as well, even more so I'd say. The only good villain the show has really is Lord Ross. And he was fantastic this season. I like that he was just kind of off to the side doing his own villainous stuff. He wasn't really part of the main plot, but it does feel like his overall story moved somewhere in the season. We see him make a new dragon icon, travel of course with Eren and Sora, and make some big moves as well in the finale too. One of the final scenes of the season shows that Ross has somehow captured Wu, and he uses the realm portals to scatter the ninja across the merged lands, and it feels like they're kind of setting him up to become more of a big threat again. Overall though, he's a great character. I love his new bone outfit, and I'm glad that the season kind of ends more on an open note in terms of villains, not really setting up another new villain like the past two seasons did, and the ending with the ninja being scattered, not the best thing ever, but I think a decent enough conclusion. As for some of the other ninja, Cole was pretty good here. The season does a good job of showing his devotion to the Finders. It seems like Frack and Sora could be a thing moving forward. I don't have any thoughts on this at the moment, but we'll see how that plays out. I thought Ryu's training with Rontu was pretty cool, and him learning how to do Spinjitzu. Wildfire I found to be a bit annoying, likable for sure, but also kind of annoying at times. Lloyd was great in this season as always. I like especially how we see him repair his relationship with Eren and continue to guide him. Very solid part of the season. And the last main thing I want to discuss is the Source Dragon story this season is just incredible. This season ends off with the Source Council splitting in half because some of the Source Dragons did not like that the ninja were able to release the Arc Dragon of Focus. I thought this was a very cool development, and I'm excited to see how it plays into Season 4, and if we'll see the Source Dragons try to enact consequences on the ninja. It just felt like a very important ending to me, and honestly better than introducing a new villain or something like that. This season's ending is solid. The Source Dragon stuff especially carries that. And I think that's about it. I do have to say, Part 2 was much better than Part 1, which I think was probably Dragons Rising's weakest part. But no, Part 2 was great. I do think Dragons Rising Season 3 probably is not as good as Seasons 2 and 1. Those two were truly exceptional seasons, and Season 3 doesn't quite reach those highs, but it's still very good nevertheless. I like how the season answered a lot of long-running mysteries, and it felt like it kind of turned the page towards a new chapter of Dragons Rising, and I'm very excited to see how the show continues forward. So I would say Season 3 gets an 8.5 out of 10 from me. It was a strong season that definitely ranks among Ninjago's better seasons, but perhaps not its best seasons. But still, overall a very fun watch, and it got me excited about Ninjago again. And that'll do it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, share with anyone never you know, and share your thoughts on Dragons Rising Season 3 down below, and I'll see you guys next time.